decide whether one of these skulls belonged to a member of the ape kind or a member of the mankind. And what I'll do is I'm going to unclip this for a moment. I'll move these over here to your table because I'd like, Dr. Hovind, if at all possible, that you show me exactly what features there are that enable us to say that such and such a fossil is an ape or that such and such is a man, because I've been getting different answers from different respected and credentialed writers in the scientific creation field. I would very much like to know what I should be teaching to my students when they ask about this. They're a pretty smart crew. They've heard of these skulls before. So I thank you very much. In just a minute, I'll bring these over to your table.
All right. The Bible says we are made in God's image. The textbooks teach the kids this is Grandpa, or something similar to this. We came from an ape-like ancestor. So what is the truth about the cavemen? Can an ape-like creature turn to a human? Okay. Well, I guess that depends on what you mean by caveman. Okay, there are many people who live in caves. Okay, Lot and his daughter lived in caves. Joshua hid the 5 kings hid in a cave. Osama bin Laden's the world's most wanted caveman right now. Every one of the so-called cavemen that is mentioned in the books has been demonstrated to be wrong. Nebraska man, for instance, built from one tooth, okay, later found to be the tooth of a pig. Piltdown man, a deliberate fraud, but it was in the textbooks for 40 years before it was proven that it was a fraud, okay? Over 500 papers, some PhD papers even, were written, dissertations on the Piltdown man, and it was a deliberate lie. Neanderthal man is still in textbooks today, yet it's been demonstrated years ago. Neanderthal man is just an old man with arthritis, okay, which is why he was bent over. The brains of Neanderthals are 13% bigger than ours. Many, many Neanderthals have been found. They have average height of 5'9", about the same as people today. Dr. Kawazo, who's a friend of mine and is a dentist and has been studying what you said for 30-some years on the growth of the human face, did a great study on this. The Neanderthals were probably people who were living post-flood, right after the flood, when people still lived to be 400 years old after the flood. Because the Bible says after the flood they lived to be 400 for a few generations, and then 200, and then 100. The bones of your forehead actually the bones of your face never stop growing. And so the Neanderthals are probably post-flood people who are living to be 200 or 300 years old. I don't know. But they certainly are not subhuman. Their brain capacity is bigger than ours, okay? And the eyebrow ridge is simply an indication of great age, probably several hundred years old. Cro-Magnon man, modern in every respect. Australopithecus africanus is still in textbooks today as used as evidence for evolution. Yet in 1973, it was demonstrated it could not possibly be evidence for evolution. Australopithecus afarensis, better known as Lucy, is in textbooks today. Lucy was 3 feet tall, found by Donald Johanson, 1974, Hadar Valley, Ethiopia. He said Lucy's becoming a human, particularly because of the knee joint. Well, the fact is there's quite a bit of controversy about that knee joint, and that knee joint, the one that was labeled Lucy's knee in National Geographic, was not Lucy's knee. Yeah, that one was found 1.5 miles away. So you need to get Tom Willis's website from csama.org, Creation Science Association of Mid-America in Kansas City, to get information about Lucy's knee joint. The femur was angled, and that was his evidence it's becoming a human. Well, the fact is monkeys that climb trees have angled femurs. Monkeys that walk on the ground have a straight femur. So it's not evidence. The way they word it in the textbooks, though, is deceitful. It will say it has ape-like features. You've all got hair. That's an ape-like feature. So's my dog, okay? They say Lucy's knee was slightly bigger than a regular ape. Doesn't prove a thing, okay? The bones of a Clydesdale are slightly bigger than a regular horse, okay? Doesn't prove it's becoming a truck. St. Louis Zoo has human feet on their wax figure of Lucy at the St. Louis Zoo. It's up there today. Not one foot bone was found, and every other Australopithecine that has been found had curled toes. They were knuckle walkers. But the zoo director, Bruce Carr, was told about this. He said, look, what you have up here is a complete misrepresentation. It's a lie. He said, zoo officials have no plans to knuckle under. We cannot be updating every exhibit based on every new piece of evidence. We look at the overall exhibit and the impression it creates. We think the overall impression this exhibit creates is correct. In other words, Bruce is saying it's okay to lie to students that come to our zoo because we think the impression that man evolved from an ape-like ancestor is right. Therefore, even though our statue's a lie, we're going to keep it up here because of the impression it gives to the kids. Now that guy ought to find an honest job picking peaches, and somebody in Missouri ought to help him. He does no business being involved in lying to kids. Charles Oxnard spent 16 years studying every single bone of Lucy with the computer multivariate analysis. He said Lucy is not a missing link. It's just an unusual monkey, that's all. And there might be some still alive today. So Lucy is not a missing link. Peking man, all evidence disappeared, but that was used as evidence for evolution for many years. And yet Peking man, what it amounted to was a bunch of monkey skulls that were smashed, found in a cave, and human tools found with them. So some brilliant guy in a government grant said, wow, these monkeys are learning to use tools. Hello, somebody's using the tools on the monkeys, you know. Some people like to eat monkey brains, watch Indiana Jones, okay? They hid the fact that they found 10 human skulls, 10 human remains in the same cave. In the textbooks today is Homo erectus, which you referred to earlier, used to be called Java man, then changed the name to Pithecanthropus erectus, and now called Homo erectus, all the same creature. This was found, made from a few scraps of bone, in 1891 in Java, Indonesia, why it was called the Java man, by a Dutch anatomist, Dr. Dubois. He had gone to Indonesia to look for missing links. He loved the evolution theory. He believed in evolution very strongly, so he's not an unbiased observer. Okay? He went to Indonesia to try to find a missing link. What he found was an ape's skull cap, 3 human teeth, and a thigh bone, which he found a year later 50 feet away, and it was obviously from a human, and he informed the world he had found the missing link. He hid the fact that he found a human skull in the same area, two human skulls in the same area. He put those skulls under his bed, under the floorboards, under his house. Kind of like Edgar Allan Poe, you know, the telltale heart. Only this was the telltale heads. He lied. And the fact that you're still using Java man as evidence for evolution indicates you need to study this a little further. Dr. Dubois was a liar. Okay? There is no evidence of how man evolved. None whatsoever. Fossil evidence of human evolution is evolutionary history is fragmentary and open to various interpretations. Fossil evidence of chimpanzee evolution is absent altogether. Nature magazine, volume 412. Marvin Lubinau's book and Coazo's book, they may disagree on whether something is human or ape, but there's a much, much bigger point you are totally missing. I'll share it with you here. Absolutely no fossil could possibly prove evidence. It could not be used as evidence for evolution. If you walked into a court of law and said, Your Honor, this is the ancestor of humans today, anybody with half a brain in their head would say, Your Honor, he can't prove this fossil had any kids. You certainly can't prove it had different kids. Why on earth would you think a bone you found in the dirt can do something animals today cannot do? Animals today produce the same kind. Why would you think it was different long ago and far away? That's my whole point. That is not science. That's a religion. Now, if you want to believe this is an ancestor of anybody, you can believe whatever you want, but that's not science, and it shouldn't be you shouldn't be using taxpayers' dollars to spread your religion in the public school system. Plain and simple. Now, that's my point number one. No fossil could possibly count as evidence for evolution. It couldn't count because you can't demonstrate it had any kids. And the fact that you find a bone in the dirt lower than some other bone you found in the dirt, that doesn't prove any relationship either. I mean, a freshman law student would have a heyday with evolution, disproving it. It'd be so simple in the average court of law. The problem is evolution doesn't have to be proven in a court of law. It only has to be made believable for students to come to school. And here's some student in the school who has a fear of his teacher because the teacher has an academic and a psychological advantage over him. And now he's going to be taught this stuff and he doesn't dare question it too loudly or it might affect his grade or his possibility for graduation. Secondly, I'd like to point out the similarities between these creatures. And there are many similarities. I'll be quick to agree. Okay, I taught biology and anatomy for many years. There are thousands of similarities. The similarity demonstrates a common designer. It doesn't demonstrate a common ancestor. There's thousands of parts off a Chevy that'll fit, off a Chevy Corvette that'll fit on a Chevy Lumina. Thousands of parts will interchange. That doesn't prove they're all evolving from a skateboard. They're all coming from General Motors. Hello, okay? So the similarities you're finding in these skulls is just as much evidence for a common designer of these creatures. They have similarities like binocular vision, both eyes on the front of the head as opposed to the sides, because humans and chimpanzees have similar tasks to perform in life. They have to find their food, they have to see where they're going, they have to be able to do certain things. There are also thousands and thousands of differences between humans and chimpanzees. I mean, thousands of differences. People will say, well, humans and chimps are 98.6% similar, or 98.4% similar with current in their DNA structure. Well, first place, 1.6% of the DNA difference is an incredible amount of difference. The fellow who was in charge of the DNA genome project, or one of the, I think he was in charge of it. I've got the information here if my computer didn't lock up on me. According to evolution, things get better automatically, you know. But I cannot get it to work for me. The guy in charge of the, I'll get the quote here for you, since I got 2 minutes left. He said, this 1.6% difference is absolutely incredible amount of difference. It amounts to 48 million nucleotides that are different. And a difference of only 3 nucleotides is nearly always fatal to the organism. I know somebody's not going to believe me, so I'll show you where he said it himself. Human DNA is incredibly complex. Okay. I think I've got the quote right here. Let's see. Similarity in DNA. There we go. Dr. Barney Maddox, leading genetic genome researcher, said, concerning these genetic differences, now the genetic difference between human and his nearest relative, he's not a nearest relative, folks, but Barney believes he is, okay? I know a good job we can get for Barney, too. He says, we're relatives to the chimpanzee. He said, this is at least 1.6%. That doesn't sound like much, but calculated out, there's a gap of 48 million nucleotides, and a change of only 3 nucleotides is fatal to an animal. There is no possibility of change. So 2 major points I would like you to address. Number 1, the similarities could just as easily be demonstration of common creator. Why aren't students taught that? Why are they only taught one religious viewpoint as opposed to all religious viewpoints? Secondly, the so-called ancestors, no fossil would demonstrate evidence for evolution. Absolutely none. It couldn't count in a court of law because, as I said, you can't prove it had any kids. Why on earth would you think a bone you found in the dirt is evidence for evolution? It can't be. If evolution is really true, let's watch it happen. Let's see it. And the argument will be, well, it happens so slowly we can't see it. Okay, then it's not science. It's something you believe happened, but that's not demonstrable in a laboratory. It's not testable. It's not part of science. And I resent them cutting down our perfectly good trees to print that stuff in a textbook. You know, where's Al Gore when you need him, okay? So, my answer to your question is very simple. Yes, there are thousands of similarities. I don't know if this was a human or an ape. It doesn't matter. It wouldn't count as evidence for evolution because you couldn't prove it had any kids, okay? If there are species of extinct apes, and I'm sure there are thousands, you know, things that have gone extinct over the years, thousands of animals have gone extinct. So what? That doesn't prove evolution either. That's the opposite of evolution. And so if you're using tax dollars to line these things up in your classroom and say, boys and girls, can't you see the similarity here? And some kid in your class says, yes, teacher, doesn't this prove a common designer? You should say, well, you're right. It certainly could prove a common designer. We don't know. Why on earth are we discussing origins in science class anyway? Origins is not part of science. You're going to make somebody upset no matter which way you discuss it. Okay? Origins has no business being involved in the school system. It just shouldn't be discussed. Bigger question, yeah, it is, should we even have public schools? We'll get into that some other time. Thank you so much.
The second question that we want to present to our debaters is, what is the origin and the age of the universe, and what is your method of determining it? And Dr. Wagner, you will have 17 minutes, and Dr. Hovind, you will have 10.
Sorry, this will take a second to get my monitor working again. Well, I think I can, let's see here. Well, I think I can assure both you, Dr. Hovind, and everyone here